This is the Decahedron Podcast with Joe and James.
Mailcall from the United States of America.
Our next feedback is from Jason. Thank you, Jason. It is about our Fun with Feedback number 3 episode. He actually sent 2 things. Let's listen to the first one.
Hey guys, Jason here. Just listening to your feedback episode. I know I'm a little bit late. Sorry about that. Great answers to my questions. I appreciate it. I have an article about Boot Hill's, a role-playing game. You know, I think they're on my 2nd edition, but effectively that falls under your, what you're talking about. I'll send that to your email so you can see where it was run as a successful campaign, just to kind of stir the fires for your What is an RPG episode. The other thing I wanted to mention is healing. So you talk about, Joe talks about how he does, 1 hit point a day healing, and I understand that. But so I'm curious on your thoughts, and maybe there's an episode on healing and hit points and what hit points represent. If hit points are a combination of blood and muscle plus luck and skill and exertion and all this other endurance, whatever you want to say it is, right? Then why does a 10th level fighter heal 10 times slower than a 1st level fighter? If a 1st level fighter is down 50% of their hit points, it takes them 5, and say they have 10 hit points, it will take them 5 days to recover. If that 10th level fighter is down to 50% of their hit points, it'll take them a heck of a lot longer to recover, depending what their hit points are, right? So why is that? Same thing with healing magic. If you have a character with 30 hit points and you have a character with 6 hit points and you do Cure Light Wounds, why does one character get healed all the way up where the other doesn't? When, it's the same percentage of wounds maybe that they've taken. Some, percentage of their total hit points. So sorry about that big truck noise in the background. I hope this all makes sense, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Jason, thanks for that. Yeah, I got the article. I shared that with James. We will save that for when we talk about what is a role-playing game. And as for healing, I'm going to let James take the lead on this one.
Jason, I'm on your side. Joseph tends to think that everything should be slow and tedious. It's the word I'm looking at. He wants you to go back to town every day. Now, I know you made a comment, and I believe it was you, about not allowing your people to shut the door in the dungeon and sleep and get rested up and heal their points. In many a day games.
Who? Me or Jason?
Jason.
I don't remember him saying that.
Well, I believe it was him. Maybe it was one of the other feedbacks we have. But
I don't remember hearing that in any of our feedbacks. But press on.
Okay. But I agree with you. The healing process should be faster, but that's hard to make it a fair game by saying, okay, you're 10th level, so you heal 10 points every day. But that is something we should consider. But I think Joseph is very hard set with that idea.
Okay, Joseph's turn. So I don't have a problem with the situation that Jason is describing. I think that is exactly as it should be. And the answer is simple, in my mind, is that when you have your 1st level fighter and he has 7 hit points and he gets a Cure Light Wounds and he goes from 1 to 7 hit points and it brings him back to full, even above average health. 7 hit points is above average health. All right. That makes perfect sense. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't think Jason has a problem with it either. Jason's problem seems to come into play when you have that 10th level fighter who then goes from, let's say, 50 hit points down to 2 when he gets that healing spell, that same healing spell, and he only goes up to 7 hit points. No, I think that works perfect because you're thinking of it. You're saying, he has 50 hit points, but now he only has 7. He's almost dead. He lost most of his hit points. No, at 7 hit points, he is still above average health compared to most of the people in the world.
But he's 10th level.
Exactly. So at 10th level, he is so tough that he can take wounds that would kill the average man.
Woman,
he can take a lot more.
Child.
He can take a lot more. So it makes sense in my mind that he's going to need to take that much more in healing time. I don't have a problem with it. Do we need to do a full episode on it? No, I don't think so. Oh, but there were some other things I was going to say about healing time slowing things down. First of all, it just takes that character out of play for a while. But like I said in the original episode, it gives you a choice. I mean, okay, I normally have 50 hit points, but now I have 25. Do I want to go on this adventure? I mean, I still have 25 hit points. That's more than most of the people. Why not? Or maybe I'll play it safe, and then the clock ticks for that character and time presses on. No worries. I also do some things that are outside of the book. If you look in Judges Guild Ready Rough Sheets, there are actually some ideas there for healing, normal non-magical healing after a combat, and I use those. I consider that part of combat damage to be shock and not injury, and I allow that damage to be healed on its own, determined by dice roll, how much, first aid type rolls. So I do that to keep like the dungeoneering happening a little longer. Oh, the other idea I normally have is like, when is a character dead, right? Original D&D, it was at 0 hit points, you're dead. AD&D, it was -10, right? And there's a billion variations what different people do. I say that your death is your constitution. If you have a constitution of 10 and you have 6 hit points, when you hit that 0 point, you are dead. When you take 6 hit points, not dead, sorry, you are unconscious. If you have 6 points, you take 6 hit points of damage, you are unconscious. If you take 10, you are dead because that's your constitution score. Actually, I'd probably say 11. If your total number of hits exceeds your constitution, and that means that low-level characters, they will fall into this unconscious state before they die. But high-level characters, because they are so tough, they are able to bring their force of will and determination to allow them continue to that very last moment. And so when they go down, because their hit points exceed their constitution, they're just down. They're dead. They're gone, because that is how tough they are. What do you think of that idea, James? I don't think I've ever told you that one.
No, you haven't, but what is resurrection and
Raise dead and all that for? Hey, yeah. I like the way you think. And there was one other thing I was going to say about all this, Jason, which in my world, when we're talking about that 10th level fighter, it's really a moot point because I have never had a player get up to 10th level ever. Unless, James, when we were like doing that wild loosey-goosey stuff with Mailcall.
Yeah, but we used to, we never got high because Joseph tends to switch the game quite often.
Okay, next. Well, not only that, I mean, what did Gygax say, right? Gygax heard reports of people being like 50th level and stuff. And he said, and I think this was in 1978-ish. No, it was probably in 75 or 6-ish. And he said that unless you've been playing this game for 4 years regularly every day, you should not have our highest level characters 5th level. So in the Gygax universe, those high levels didn't in the early Gygax universe. I think he got looser as he got older. Of course, he's just been saying stuff because he did that. I'm sorry, I keep talking over you. Speak up, James.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I think Gygax was a lot like you he was trying to tell a story, make an adventure. He was not trying to make it about all fighting.
Yeah, we are definitely going to have to. You keep saying that I'm a storytelling GM, and I am absolutely not a storytelling GM. I let the players tell their story.
Okay, how about you're the director of the story? Is that better?
I'm the set designer.
Okay, set designer. But you tend to try to make it more for the game because there are certain monsters, and you are one of the few people who do it, that it's time to run away instead of standing there toe-to-toe, and you can kill all the monsters before they kill you. Yeah.
As we said in another episode, a game is all about, in my mind, as a player, the game is all about being able to make choices, and those choices having consequences, good or bad, and having to live with those consequences. So by deciding to stay there and fight against an obviously superior foe, that's going to have a consequence, and you're going to pay the price for that. And if you run away, you're going to pay the price for that. But that price is going to be surviving. And I think, I don't know. I think that's rewarding the players for their decisions. It should be done. But we're getting a little out there. Let's listen to Jason's next voicemail.
Hey, guys, I guess I should have answered the question about Amber Diceless. I've never played Amber Diceless. I've listened to a review of it. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not an RPG, but it sounds like it's pretty much up to the whims of the GM. It's effectively who's more powerful than the other person, and then a lot of whims of the GM. I don't know. But I would be interested to hear you educate me on it. And if you want to talk about that, that would be a great episode. So for your What is an RPG episode, I would submit that, you're controlling individual characters, maybe more than one, but definitely the individual character level, not at the army level, right? That you have some kind of randomizer and that you have some kind of potential for campaigns. I don't think RPGs have to be ongoing stories or it has to have character development, but typically they will have character development and will have ongoing stories. So that's my submission for you, and I'll be interested to see what you say.
Hey, Jason, thanks for that feedback. About Amber Diceless, I've never played it either. It's just when you said it requires a randomizer, that was the first thing that popped in my head. I'm like, because, a lot of people out there like Amber. I do remember seeing, this requires a little backtracking, bloop, 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 bloop. Way back when I was a GURPS player, and Steve Jackson had a newsletter. It was called The Role Player, kind of like a zine, I guess. Someone in one of the role players had written in a letter to the editor about how when they roll the dice, that is their equivalent of their character swinging their sword, or their roll of the dice is their action that lets them connect more to their character, like clinging to the side of a cliff and trying to climb up. And that letter resonated with me a great deal. And I was like, yeah, I agree completely. I've never had a desire to try Amber, but you raised it. And so I said, I thought maybe you might have had experience with it. And I was wondering why you would not consider that a role-playing game. So it sounds like neither Jason or I are qualified to talk about Amber. What about you, James?
Oh, I'm even more clueless than you on that one.
All right. So then the next thing that he talked about was all what is a role-playing game type stuff. So we will probably save that for that that episode. Just a thought that occurred to me while you were saying that, Jason, based on what I just said, maybe my definition, I've been thinking about this topic a lot, which means that it's a great topic. So when we get there, I'm like, what am I going to say? So right now, I'm thinking from what I just said in response to his previous voice email, a role-playing game is a game, to use some of his ideas too, where you are playing a role of a single character. Of course, you might have multiple characters, but you're just playing those individually, where you play as an individual character, making decisions and living with their consequences. And it sounds to me like you don't actually need a randomizer for that if you have another way to do it, like however Amber does it. I do prefer using randomizer. Dice is my thing. I don't like cards and stuff, but I have toyed with other ideas too. Like, what if in the beginning you give every player some tokens? You give them 2 successes. Well, let's say you give them 3 successes, a critical, a fumble, and a miss. And they get to, whenever they come to whatever encounter or whatever, they get to choose which one of those they have for that session. But once they use all their successes, they're out of successes for the game. There's no randomizer there. It's just character decisions. player decisions. I don't know.
I'm going to agree with what both of you are saying, but when I think of a game, the best way I think of it is think of it making a movie. You have a stage, you have the players. You don't necessarily have a script, but the DM is going to throw things out there, and you have to work with what you're given. Does that make sense to you?
Improv. Interesting. Yes. Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a great episode. I wonder if we should get Jason to join us on that episode. I wonder if he'd be interested. What do you think of that idea?
I love that idea.
Okay, Jason, consider this a formal invite. We don't know when we're recording it yet, but when we do, you want to join us for the What is an RPG episode?
Please do.
All right. So that was it for the Fun with Feedback number 3 episode. That's the end of this episode of Mail Call. It didn't really end there because if you've been listening previously, you know that we recorded this as part of a larger episode, and later on I decided to break it down. So that's it for this one. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Another Mail Call will be coming your way the next time you hear...
Send us feedback by emailing feedback@decahedron.com. Decahedron is spelled with a K. Voice feedback can be sent through the Anchor app or by calling 562-RPG-CAST. That's 562-774-2278. Music is courtesy of Kevin MacLeod, logo by The Design Cat. Thank you for listening.